so small, even the furniture seemed to whisper instead of speak. Inside that apartment lived a young couple, Jim and Della. They were poor, money was tight, but they were rich in something far more precious: love. It was Christmas Eve, and Della had only $1.87. She had been saving for months, pennies at a time. A coin here, a coin there. Carefully hidden from the grocer, the milkman, and the world. She had hoped to buy a Christmas gift for Jim. Something fine, something worthy of the man she loved more than life itself. But now, she sat by the window, tears in her eyes, staring at the small handful of coins. $1.87. That was all. And tomorrow was Christmas. She looked around their tiny room, the worn carpet, the old mirror. Nothing fancy, nothing grand. But their hearts, full of dreams and full of each other. Della stood and walked to the mirror. She looked at herself, and then at her hair. Long, brown, and beautiful, it flowed like silk, past her shoulders, almost to her knees. It was her pride, and now, her only treasure. She took a deep breath, wrapped her hair in an old scarf, and rushed out the door. The streets were cold, and the wind bit at her cheeks. But Della's mind was clear. Her heart was firm. She stopped at a small sign that read, Madame Sofroni, hair goods of all kinds. She opened the door. Dame Sofroni was a cold woman, all business with eyes that measured instead of looked. Della spoke quickly. Will you buy my hair? The woman stepped forward. She lifted Della's hair, turned her head from side to side, and nodded. $20, she said. Cut it off, Della replied without hesitation. And just like that, the beautiful hair was gone. When she returned home, Della looked in the mirror again. Her head was now covered in tiny curls. She looked like a schoolboy. She turned her head side to side. Was Jim still going to find her pretty? No. She whispered to herself, he loves me, that's enough. With $20 in her hand and a heart full of hope, Della searched the shops. She wanted to find the perfect gift. And at last, she did. A simple, elegant chain of fine gold. Not flashy, not showy, just quiet and strong. Like Jim. You see, Jim had one prized possession, his gold pocket watch. It had belonged to his father, and to his grandfather before that. But the watch had no chain. He kept it in his coat pocket and checked the time carefully, holding the watch like a treasure. Now, he would have a chain to match. Della paid $21 for it and walked home with shining eyes and a happy heart. At 7 o'clock, Jim came home. Della ran to the door, her eyes bright, her hands trembling with excitement and nerves. Jim stepped inside. He looked tired, older than his 22 years. But when he saw Della, he stopped. He stared, not at her dress, not at her smile, at her hair. You've cut it? He said slowly. His voice was quiet. Della's heart sank. She rushed to explain. Yes, Jim. I sold it. I couldn't live through Christmas without giving you a gift. It'll grow back. You're not mad, are you? Say Merry Christmas, Jim. Jim blinked, as if waking from a dream. You've cut your hair, he whispered again. Then, suddenly, he smiled, a quiet, warm smile that wrapped around her like a blanket. No, he said softly, walking toward her. No, Della. Nothing. You could make me love you less. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small wrapped box. Merry Christmas, my love, he said. Della opened the gift, and her breath caught in her chest. There they were. The beautiful tortoiseshell combs she had admired in the store window so many times, with jewels that sparkled in the light like tiny stars. She had dreamed of those combs, imagined how they would look in her long flowing hair. But now, her hair was gone. Della blinked away tears and smiled bravely. They're beautiful, Jim. My hair grows fast. I'll wear them soon. And then she held out her own gift. This is for you. Jim opened the box and looked down at the gold watch chain for a long moment. He said nothing. Then he looked up, eyes full of something deeper than surprise. Della, he said slowly, I sold the watch to buy you the combs. The room was silent. The old clock on the wall ticked softly. And then they both began to laugh, not a loud, silly laugh, but a quiet, understanding laugh, full of love, sadness, and joy all mixed together. They had each given up their most prized possession to bring happiness to the other. They had nothing, and yet they had everything, because their gifts, though now useless, were full of meaning. They were gifts of love, of sacrifice, of something greater than the objects themselves. And that is why the wise men who brought gold, frankincense, and myrrh to baby Jesus are remembered. But in this small apartment, on that cold Christmas Eve, Jim and Della were even wiser. They gave from the heart, without asking anything in return. They were the true Magi.